Has NIL gotten out of hand? No, seriously, this is a question that's been on my mind a lot recently, and also on the mind of many other people that are fans of college sports. Last year for college football, the reigning champion Ohio State Buckeyes were estimated to spend somewhere in the $20 to $25 million range for their NIL budget. This year, the team that I keep hearing about is Texas Tech. Reports are showing that they are somewhere between the $27 to $55 million range when it comes to their NIL spending. At what point is enough enough? We're no longer really building out, amateur teams. This has become a pro sport. That being said, Texas Tech has a lot of hype behind them. Let's take a look at what they've done for their roster this year in comparison to the previous couple years and what's made a real contender to build a dynasty at the college level. Now, a quick caveat on that $55 million number. It's estimated that that's likely just their total NIL spending. Texas Tech is looked at to be spending somewhere closer to $27 million for this year in football. Now, what's really interesting about Texas Tech in specific is that last year they only went 8-5 with a 6-3 record in the Big 12. They did make an appearance in a bowl game against Arkansas, but they lost that bowl game 39-26. That doesn't really scream out potential contender. So what changes did they make to get everybody so high on Texas Tech? Well, when we look at the spending that they did, a lot of that falls to the transfer portal. Texas Tech has brought in the best transfer portal haul in the country this year. That includes a couple of high-impact players on both sides of the ball, but really specifically, they address the defensive line. They've added some strong edge rushers, and they've just fixed the defensive line in general. Along with that improved defense, you're also returning a veteran quarterback in Morton. Morton spent the 2024 season at 3,335 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Now, people want to draw comparisons to some teams like maybe Texas or Ohio State last year when it comes to the NIL spending, but I'm not really sure if that's a true comparison. Yes, Ohio State spent $20 to $25 million NIL last year. However, a lot of that spending was to retain existing players. Now, they did make a couple of additions. We look at guys like Caleb Downs or Judkins or Will Howard. But a lot of that money was spent to really retain what they already had on the roster. In my opinion, what put Ohio State over the edge when it came to a championship team was that this was a team that had played together for a long time, had a lot of consistency, and a lot of heartbreak that they've had to fight through. Texas Tech does not necessarily fit that bill. I'd say they may be a little bit closer to that of last year's Ole Miss team. When you look at the strategy, you have a similar setup where they're returning a veteran quarterback, Morton compared to Dart, and then transfers who can contribute immediately and fill some of those key roster needs. Both Ole Miss last year and Texas Tech this year depend substantially on NIL and collectives to attract transfers, retain players, etc. The aim has been to accelerate competitiveness, win more quickly rather than building something that lasts a couple of different years, building out recruiting cycles. With this model, Ole Miss has seen back-to-back double-digit win seasons in the SEC, and I think that this is what Texas Tech is aiming for as well. So let's go ahead and talk about what some of the pitfalls with this type of strategy might be. Number one, like I was talking about with Ohio State, is the building of chemistry and cohesion. Ohio State's team had mostly played together for several different years. When you look at Texas Tech, one of the biggest concerns that I see bringing in so many transfers from the portal is that there's going to be a lot of new faces around the locker room. Trying to blend them into a consistent unit, a disciplined unit, usually is going to take time, and did they have enough time with just one off season to do so? When you look at different position units on a football team, such as the offensive line, or really just communication on defense, that really relies on year-over-year cohesion, And even at the next level, at the NFL level, you can see teams like the New York Giants, perhaps, who have consistently tried to bring in a bunch of different faces and different veterans, etc., but without the consistency, can't build a good offensive line compared to when you look at a unit like perhaps the Detroit Lions, who had a very good, consistent O-line for many years and were able to capitalize behind that. Let's also go ahead and talk about defensive consistency. Yes, they brought in a lot of potentially very good players on defense. But last year, this was one of the weakest units in the Big 12. Even with the new talent brought in, can we trust their system? If the new transfers do not hit for them across the season, they do not have the depth behind the starters and could really struggle against some of the more explosive offenses in the NCAA. Quarterback health is also a potentially big issue for them. Morton is a solid return starter, but he's had some injuries in the past. If he builds on that injury history and misses some time, there's going to be a big drop-off in proven quarterback play. Texas Tech doesn't have the same luxury as someone like Texas, for example, last year, who had Arch Manning sitting behind Quinn Ewers, or Ohio State, who had Will Howard and then Julian Sayin, etc. A lot of these big teams with big budgets have some blue-chip prospects that can sit behind them at quarterback. Tech, not so much. Maybe even more so than the personnel, however, is taking a look at the head coach for Texas Tech. Joey McGuire's tenure at Texas Tech has been interesting, to say the least. Currently in his 4th year, he's put together an 8-5 record, a 7-6 record, and then an 8-5 record again. That doesn't really give us the type of coach that you anticipate to be in the college football playoff. And I think that's going to be their biggest hurdle that they're going to face as a team, because he's also had some question marks when it comes to in-game coaching and consistency. He has trouble meeting the expectations that are being set for him. Now, he did make some core changes, one of those being that he replaced the defensive coordinator with Sheil Wood, which that should help them scheme-wise to prevent a little more havoc, create some turnovers, and hopefully not be a bottom-of-the-barrel defense. One of the things that Texas Tech has going for them, however, is they do not have a particularly strong schedule ahead of them. Currently, the only ranked team that they are expecting to face is Utah, and there might be some change there overall, but it's giving the same types of vibes as Cincinnati had over in Indiana when he was able to miss several key players in the Big Ten en route to their playoff appearance. So with the weak schedule, the improved class, the increase in NIL spending and bringing in the transfer portal, some changes at defense, I do agree that there is a lot of potential here for a playoff team if they can avoid injuries and not have to dip too far into their depth. I think that this will be a real key piece when you start to look at the NIL budget and whether or not that's actually going to begin to win games and create championship teams. Because last year we started to see that take place. A lot of the people that were in the college football playoff were big spenders in the NIL level. Obviously, Ohio State having that 20 million number thrown around 100 times during the playoffs. But also teams like Indiana, teams like Texas, etc. that had some very large spending budgets. With the way things are rolling then, and then what we're seeing this year, if Texas Tech manages to make the playoffs, or even make a little bit of a run into the playoffs, I think we're going to have a lot of proof that shows that you really can't have success at the same level building a homegrown team in today's college football. I think the blueprint to create a dynasty now is having that healthy budget at the NIL level and be able to bring in transfers at key positions when you need them. Not a lot of teams are going to be able to stockpile the depth that they were able to stockpile in previous years, such as maybe Nick Saban with Alabama. Thank you guys for listening into my rant here about some college football and about Texas Tech. This was an interesting topic that's come up to me because I keep seeing the talking heads at, ESPN and such discuss this topic on game day. If you're interested in this sort of content, whether that's college football or sports, please let me know. Drop a comment. I want to be able to morph this channel into what people are interested in. College football is one of those things that I'm very, very passionate about. It doesn't hurt for you to subscribe, but mostly, please share this with someone. You guys have a nice day, and this was the Dynasty Blueprint, where we look at legacies one team at a time.